Yes, guys, today is Sunday, the 19th of July. Pre-week analysis. Not going to look too much on what happened last week, but we are in an interesting position. Price is kind of telling us a little bit more of what it wants to do at the moment. Last week finished quite nicely in terms of price action. So let's just hope that rolls over into next week as well. So just for awareness in terms of news, Wednesday we have got GBP, so pound CPI, 7 a.m. So pre-market for a lot of people, but for me, something that I'm going to be watching out for, see what direction we get from that. And then a couple other red folder, so high impact news alerts around kind of monetary policy and the ECB. However, nothing on the US, so potentially a little bit low volume. And if we just switch over to compare across different sources, obviously we have got some US high impact news around Thursday and Friday. So for those that trade ACG, for example, just be aware of my FX book because they'll catch you out on that one. Right, so starting on a blank chart on EURUSD on the 4 hourly, I'm just going to mark out my strong highs, my strong lows. And in between this point right here, we didn't break this strong high and we didn't break this strong low. So ultimately, this has all been noise that I've just been wanting to just trade very carefully in. Um, Ultimately, prices failed to push above this high. As you recall, potentially from previous pre-week, I was looking to see if this 4 hourly high would get taken out and closed through with a candle body close to potentially give me confirmation that price was going to be stepping up and looking to fill these inefficiencies, these imbalances, at least target them. But we didn't get a close through last week. So that didn't happen. We got close just here, but we wicked. We wicked out and we came back into this area of accumulation and just started trading away from it quite slowly, really. We have got some points of interest. So we've got this order block in here that we could see price come to. We are taking out internal range liquidity in terms of these lows, for example. This is relatively near term though, so we could also see that get taken out, and we have got a point of interest in here as well. So these are obviously bullish examples of where I would be looking to see where we could react from, but put simply. I'm not going to be wanting to trade too much against this. We range in, so staying relatively mechanical can be advantageous in these situations. But for me, I'm just trying to be as risk off as I can on Forex. I'm trying to only take the best setups just because this year's been a little bit against the odds on my typical strategies. So if I can keep things as mechanical and as close to my high quality positions, then I'm gonna pull out the other end quite nicely. So that's the hourly. 4 hourly, as you can see, pull this across. Price has been respecting it, almost like a supply and demand, sorry, a support and resistance kind of thing going on here, but it is an order block on the 1 hourly. It's also this fair value gap, which is holding almost like a support and resistance, like I just mentioned. So keeping that like so. 4 hourly isn't really giving us much. I'll be real. We've also got obviously this 4 hour swing low, just to be aware of. It's a bit out of touch at the moment, but if we do start plowing through these areas in here, then I'm going to want to see price start heading towards these lows as our sell side. Liquidity, liquid. Oh my god, am I a retard? Yes. So I'm just conscious of these lows essentially. Although I am relatively bullish at the moment, I'm just being conscious, like I said. Should we expanded straight up? This is almost like a liquidity grab of these highs, this high as well, and then it ultimately just came straight back down. So I'm not buying into it too much, but near-term bias is going to remain bullish. Comprende. I realized I started on EURUSD and not DXY this time, so let me flick to DXY. So, we can get rid of that, we can get rid of that. Fuck it, we'll go blank chart as well. So, looking on the daily, we're obviously accumulating to the downside, potentially coming in to fill some inefficiencies for price to then potentially trade higher or inverse and continue going lower. So, internal lows have already been taken. In terms of the fair value gaps that we'll be watching, we have this one in here, which then has an order block underneath it. So what are we watching for is the price to come in like so. It's daily, so this is obviously looking out quite a lot. This would potentially take 1, 2, 3, 4. It could take more than a week to get there. So just conscious of where price might be heading towards in the meantime. On a 4-hourly, this is where the story is really being told at the moment. So had a strong high in here as we failed to break this low, and then we pushed above here, so we generated a relatively strong high. However, we then broke and trading in some quite nice order flow, respecting this fair value gap currently, but conscious that we've got a little bit of a gap in here, a little bit of a gap. Not something I'm overly concerned about, but strong order flow to basically see price go lower, which would ultimately send Euro USD and GU higher. So that aligns nicely with the high time narrative that I was saying. We would be looking for price to basically be stepping down like so. Okay, so that is the 4-hourly bearish bias on DXY. So the lower DXY goes, the higher USD goes. So DXY is USD. So DXY stands for, well, it is the dollar index, basically. So it accounts for the dollar as a whole. Whereas when we're trading Euro USD, it means we're trading the euro against the dollar, which means the euro being the primary kind of element within that pair. The euro USD represents the euro against the dollar, and therefore, if the euro is going up, that must mean the dollar is going down. So if we're using the dollar chart for technical reference, and it is demonstrating a bearish trend, if we are trading a highly correlated pair or a highly negatively correlated pair, then we would expect price to be like going up, so in the opposite, basically. And the more negatively correlated, the more mirror image the other is. So just back to this in terms of what we're generating at the moment, you see that price has failed to push above this strong high and below this strong low. Therefore, we are accumulating to the upside on the hourly in here, which means we are generating essentially liquidity to fuel moves to downside. So this here would be our trend line liquidity. We can mark that out like so. We have a sell side target. Because we have not been proven that price wants to go the other way yet. So all I'm going to be wanting to see price do is start breaking down to give me extra confirmation. So something like this would be really nice. And then we can look to basically, maybe on a 15-minute chart, I imagine it would kind of pop up. Start trading like that. That would be a kind of an intraday swing that I don't really mind. Could be quite nice. And you could even extend that all the way to here for about 1 to 3.5R. That'll be a relatively healthy look in my eyes for Euro. The reason I said this break of structure, 15-minute internal structure is obviously 15-minute, 30, 45, whatever you're looking at. This is going to be the low that created the last high. Okay, so we have this push above this high, and we're expecting it to fail given we're reacting from a point of interest. So if this high, or sorry, if this low that price is at now fails to create a new high, okay, so if it fails to do that and it pushes low, then I want to see price come back, give me confirmation to go lower, and then I will be looking to short. I'm just waiting for the market to tell me what it wants to do, basically. Sick. Okay, so that is basically what I'm looking at on EURUSD. In terms of this point of interest, I'm just going to expand it a little bit just to cover this whole order block. So that whole order block being from that bullish low to this high to form the last move against the trend before pushing and breaking structure again here. Hence why I've just expanded it a little bit. Okay, and just before I move on, we could also see this high get taken out, which would be previous. It'll be Friday's high, so we could get a previous day high sweep and then a break of structure potentially. But this would be the most recent most recent low of interest that we could see get broken. If I just go to GU, so we'll go blank chart. GU on the daily has obviously been expanding quite nicely. We did have this fair value gap that price has now balanced. So this fair value gap is now balanced price action. We have an imbalance remaining to the downside here still. And in terms of structure, that is relevant in terms of the trend. We did get this daily break of structure in here, as this was the last strong low. So this low was broken, failed to push. So when price stalled here, it failed to then push lower, and instead we then broke structure right here. So that means that this daily bias has been, well, we've been bullish now, confirmed for a while, or for several days. On a 4-hourly, what that's basically looking like is off the back of, I think it's Wednesday's news. We're just rebalancing that data candle basically. So what I'd be expecting is for that data candle to ultimately completely fill. We could get a reaction off this order block given that it's unmitigated. So I'd be watching in here to see if we get some sort of bounce to then go towards previous week highs. We can mark that as the buy side liquidity. So that's one option. What would be quite likely as well is to see these lows get taken and to then see price seek more discount in value and then trade higher. So it'd be from this point of interest, which if we go back to the daily is the remaining imbalance between this wick and this wick here. Okay, so that could take 2-3 days to get down here and then maybe see a Wednesday reversal. Just thinking about narrative. However, if we are going to remain bullish straight into the week, then I imagine we would see price look to take out this buy side liquidity after completely balancing out this move. Okay, so bullish bias remaining on GU. I mean, if we see that fail and we start trading lower, highly doubt it would get all the way down here, but obviously we've got these lows to then trade towards. But this is on the daily, so it could take a while, but confirmation is basically going to be looking at seeing this get flipped and then wait for hourly. That is horrendous. What the fuck? Well, you get what I'm saying. The confirmation to then go bearish is going to be ultimately 4-hourly stepping down. I mean, or bearish from a narrative perspective. On the hourly, we will likely see price shift bearish once we start pushing through here. But once we get to this level on the hourly, I'm going to want to see a break, a retest, and then confirmation in price on the hourly, at least aligning with the 4-hour chart there. Okay, so just waiting for that extra confirmation when I'm on the higher time frames, not looking to jump from 4 hours to 5 minutes straight away. Like I said, I'm trying to keep the win rate high, keep the quality of position high as well. Glance at the weekly makes me feel sick. Let's get back away from that. Cool. I think GU's looking nice. Like I said, let's just keep it high quality. And we can trade towards some of these areas of liquidity quite nicely. We got anything in terms of targets to trade again or trade towards. We have inefficiencies resting above these previous week highs. So seeing price trade towards that is actually quite a nice draw. So yeah, this is going to be my go-to play coming into next week. If this fails, then I'll probably be looking to short towards this area, and then I'll be waiting to see what price gives me at this region, whether that be a confirmation to go long or extended confirmation to start trading towards these lows. Cool. Maybe look at gold. Start from the top. Gold has just been the same story. It's been for a while. However, we're actually starting to stall now at this region. So price has actually it hesitated, pushed away, it's come back, and it's failed to close below the lowest low in here. And that's from a daily perspective at least. So we're starting to stall on daily. 4-hourly is holding this order block in here. So we've held this order block. We've expanded away with, we've pushed away quite nicely. We haven't created any imbalance yet. What I'm going to want to see if we are going to continue trading bullish is maybe just see this 4-hourly inverse. I can see this 4-hourly inverse on the 4-hour, then ultimately see this high get taken out on the hourly. I'll be happy to start looking. I'll be happy to start looking bullish on gold. Okay, and the reason I say that I want to see this high get taken out and closed and pushed is just because it's also an order block. So we've also got a region that price will most likely hesitate. You can see it's already tapped into it and is hesitating. So arguably this fair value gap has already been mitigated. So I do want to see how we react in here, because given that we're technically still relatively bearish, at least on the hourly, we're quite bearish still. We could get a push or a sweep above these highs and then confirmation to go low, which would actually be quite nice. Okay, so it would look something like that. Sweep, and then a candle close break, a retrace for entry, and then trade towards the lows. Okay, well, I'll wrap up there. If there are any questions at all, anything that's unclear, anything that you just want me to flesh out in a quick message, then feel free to DM me. Mentees, book your calls in if you need them. And I'm going to be active this week, so I'll potentially announce some ad hoc lives in the evening if I'm available. I'm still going to try and flesh out a plan to get the daily end of day analysis in. So yeah, that should be good. I have a good trading week. Prioritize preservation of risk or of capital, and don't do anything stupid. And let's fucking get it. Have a good week. See.